Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the 5 hottest or best bass baits of 2024. I've done this video the past 2 years. You guys have loved it both years. Basically what I do is I go through all the baits that I've seen come out over the winter, the last year, baits that I fished last year, and I go through and pick 5 baits that I'm either going to fish more this year because I really enjoy fishing them, they work really well, stuff like that, or techniques that I want to get better with and stuff you're gonna see more on the channel coming up this year, and ones that I'm going to learn, or different techniques that I'm going to learn and take you guys along with me. So looking at what we got on the table here, we have 2 baits that are ones that I'm going to fish more because of how well they work. One that's a half and half, I would say, and then 2 that are brand new baits that I'm very excited to fish this year. They've been asked, one has been asked about a lot on the channel, and it's one that I'm finally gonna get into. So let's jump into the baits. You're already gonna recognize a couple of them. Number 1 right here is going to be the finesse swim bait. If you don't have a finesse swim bait, if you live in the Northeast and don't fish the finesse swim bait, you're making a huge mistake. They catch a ton of fish, specifically smallmouth. I've pounded spotted bass on this bait too, so if you live in like North Carolina, South Carolina, it's a great bait down there too. And I've even caught largemouth on it. It's not a killer largemouth bait, but it works for them as well too. So what the finesse swim bait is, it's one I've been fishing for years and years. I love it. I catch a ton of smallmouth on it. It's a small swim bait that you can fish on a spinning rod or casting rod, something around the 3-inch range. So this is a 3.2 Divine swim bait from 6th Sense, and I have it on a 5/16 Divine or finesse swim bait head. So something in that range is what you're looking for. I usually use like a 1/4 ounce-ish jig head, so I have 3/16 and 5/16. If it's a little bit shallower, not as much wind, I'll go with the 3/16. If I want to keep my bait down there on the bottom, which is the biggest key with this bait, is keeping that thing on the bottom at all times, I'm gonna go with the 5/16. That's like my number 1 size that I use a lot, 1/4, 5/16, somewhere in there. And then I'll put it on a 2/0 hook. So 1/0, 2/0 hook, that's usually the size that I use. It's small enough that you get a good hook set. They don't throw the hook as easy, but you can also fish these smaller baits on it and it doesn't overpower the size of the bait. You can get 1/4 ounce jig heads, but they come with like a 4/0 hook, and your hook is like a gaff sitting way back in here, and it kills all the action out of the bait. So I take this guy right here. You can put the 2.7 Divine on here. You can do Kitech swim baits. It really doesn't matter. Something in that 3-inch size, natural colors, Pro Blue, all white, Ghost Ice Minnow is a good one. Something like that that looks like a natural shad, a small perch, a small bait fish crawling around down there on the bottom. They're all very light and white in color, and that's exactly what these mimic. They have a little bit of flash to them, but they're mostly like a muted down white color to try and hide from some of those bigger fish. And I just cast this thing out there, crawl it slowly on the bottom. That's the biggest thing. I'll throw it out there, let it sink all the way down, and crawl it back as slow as I can. I've done numerous videos on this, how many fish this bait can catch, and I'll link one of them at the end of today's video so you can check this guy out, because this is probably my favorite lure of last year, and it will be my favorite lure of this year, I can guarantee you right now. Getting into bait number 2 here, this is another one that I've caught a ton of fish on this year. It works for all 3 species of bass. It works all over the country. It will work in any type of cover. It's all in how you rig it. I am going to be doing a video on 3 different ways to rig the bait we're about to talk about here. If I already put it out, great. If not, it'll be coming up after this, so keep an eye out for that one. But it's basically a drop shot. So I love fishing a drop shot. I've caught so many fish on a drop shot the past 2 years. It's an excellent way to catch a ton of bass. Sometimes they're small. You can catch very big bass on a drop shot too, but it catches them no matter where you're at, what you're fishing, anything. If I'm gonna fish for smallmouth, spotted bass, I'm gonna go with this guy right here. This is the 6th Sense Glitch. I'll get various colors that comes in any color you can imagine. Green pumpkin is like my go-to. Any type of natural shad color is good. Even Morning Dawn is one of my favorite ones. I'll nose hook that and fish it down there on the bottom just like a small little bait fish. That's my smallmouth setup. Something in that little 3 to 4 inch drop shot worm size range. That's what I'm gonna fish for smallmouth, and that's how I'm gonna rig my drop shot to do that. I'll cast that thing out there, drag it on the bottom, and catch smallmouth doing that. with that setup. But if I'm gonna go largemouth fishing with it, I'm gonna take a Texas rig hook, something like the VMC Finesse Nico hooks with the keeper, Robo Worm rebarb hooks. Those are all excellent choices. I'll get something in that 1 to 3/0 size, depending on the worm. And then I'm going to put a 6th Sense 6.3 Divine Shaky Worm on there. I'll Texas rig it. I'll keep my same drop shot setup, and I'll be able to cast it to weeds. I'll be able to cast it to brush piles, drag it through those pieces of cover, and catch largemouth on a little bit bigger worm, but a more finesse profile down there. That's the way that I really like to catch largemouth. I've been doing that up here in the Northeast a ton recently. I've caught a lot of big fish doing that on some of the lakes around me, targeting key brush piles, throwing my bait in it, and dragging it through Texas rig so it doesn't get hung up, but being able to fish a finesse worm down there in their face. So that is the 2 baits that I really like to fish. They're excellent. I'm gonna keep fishing them this year. If you've never tried them, you need to try those ones. If you have tried them, you know how effective they are, and that's the reason why I'm gonna be fishing them a lot more this year to catch even more bass. The next bait here, this is a homemade guy, and it's one that I'm gonna fish a lot more this year because it was the most fun I had fishing for smallmouth bass last year, and that's going to be the hair jig. This thing has gotten really popular over the past few years, and for good reason. It catches a lot of fish, and it catches a lot of big smallmouth. I'll be fishing this one a lot this year. I got on this bite at the tail end of last year when they stopped biting it. I caught some big smallmouth doing it. It's a lot of fun, and the technique you're using it with, like that big long casting rod but light action, or spinning rod, when you hook these fish, they pull a lot of drag, they fight hard. It's very exciting to catch them on that type of setup. So this right here, this is a hand poured jig. It's a 1/8 ounce. I pour a ball head jig with a size 1 hook in there. That's a Gamakatsu hook that I poured in there. And then I hand tie these marabou skirts on there, and I make them nice and puffy, a lot of hair in there. It undulates in the water as it's going through. I already have a hair jig out on my channel, a hair jig video out there, but I'm gonna be doing some more this year when I get out there and get to fishing this guy. It's a technique that I wanna learn more about and continue to fish and see how effective it can be for smallmouth. The other thing to mention on this, I'll throw one little chunk of Senko that fits underneath the skirt there just to give it some bulk in the water so that all the marabou doesn't collapse down on itself, and it makes it easier to cast because you have a little bit more weight there, can get some oomph behind your cast and get it out there, because this 1/8 ounce bait that's just hair doesn't cast very well. You have to have some specialized gear to be able to do that, so that little chunk of Senko also helps a lot. But awesome bait for smallmouth. If you've never fished it before, it's a really fun technique. They bite it hard, and it's a great bite to get on when they're really keyed in on this bait. And now we're down to the 2 new baits that I'm really looking forward to fishing this year. The first one got a ton of publicity this year and was a very popular bait. I actually got my hands on some before they were ever released, and I didn't fish them. I had a bunch of boat problems. I never got out there to actually fish them and test them out. But people have been loving this bait. They've been catching a bunch of fish on it, and I'm very interested to see how it will work up here in the Northeast. They've also just come out with 3 new sizes of it that are more geared towards smallmouth. So I can actually try and drop shot some of these baits, but there's 5 or 6 different sizes now, and that's gonna be the 6th Sense Panorama. Got a lot of publicity. Josh Jones caught a lot of fish on this bait right here, caught a lot of big fish on this bait. And it was a very big launch for this bait because it's very unique. There's nothing out there like it on the market today. It's literally just a flat shad profile bait that looks very realistic. So you can see it just looks like they took a shad, printed it out on a computer and cut it out, and that's the bait. I mean, it looks super realistic. It's the same profile as a shad, same likelihood, liveliness, like everything. The colors are great. I just never fished one before, so that's one we're really interested to getting to fish. I have the 5-inch ones. I'm sure those will work for some like largemouth and stuff like that up here. I gotta figure out how to try and rig these guys to catch some fish up here, so if you've been fishing these and have any suggestions, let me know down below. I'll give them a try up here. We can make some videos on that. But I also have the 6.5-inch right here. Don't know how well that one will work up here in Pennsylvania. That's a really, really big bait. But I've caught fish on like mag drafts and stuff before, so there's no reason that it shouldn't work. And then they've come out with some smaller sizes that are more like very tiny bait fish size, and I think they're gonna work great on like a drop shot for smallmouth bass. So Panorama is one I'm gonna fish a lot more this year. Give that a shot. If you have fished it, let me know how you like it down below. I'd be very interested to see how these baits have been working. They caught my eye, and like I said, it's something very unique that's just really not out on the marketplace right now. And the last bait for 2024, you guys have been asking for it a ton, and I finally bit the bullet, and we're gonna start getting into it and making some videos on them, and that's gonna be big swim baits. We got a variety of them right here. These are the first 3 that I got. I will be ordering some more here in the very near future, but these are the 3 that I got to test out down in Florida. I didn't end up catching any fish on them. I was trying to film some other videos and conditions weren't really right, but these are the 3 that I got to get started with. If you have any suggestions for big swim baits that you like or want to see me fish, drop a comment down below. I'll try and get them ordered and be able to fish them on the channel. I have a swim bait rod already, and then I'm getting an even bigger one to fish some baits like this guy here, and even bigger. So we're gonna try and fish some really, really big swim baits, big glide baits, stuff like that, and try and catch some monster fish up here in Pennsylvania. I firmly believe that these things will work, even though they seem ridiculously big. I think you can target some really big fish up here in Pennsylvania on some of these baits after playing around with them down in Florida just a little bit. So it's something that I'm very excited to get to fishing. Running through these 3 baits real fast here. This is the 6th Sense Hangover. They sent me one when it came out. This is the Ben Milliken one that he just came out with here. I've caught a ton of fish on mag drafts. So this is one I'm really interested to fish. It looks like a fatter and larger mag draft, and you can through line it or hang a hook off the bottom, or you can do both. So very interesting to try this one. I think I can catch smallmouth and largemouth with that one. This one I also got to fish for smallmouth and largemouth, the 6-inch draw. This is the 6.5-inch version. So I got that one to kind of dart around up shallow and catch fish that way. It's something that I'm really going to use pre-spawn, spawn, post-spawn fish. I guarantee fish are going to destroy this thing very shallow when that happens, and I'm looking forward to fishing a glide bait and get some more practice with it and learn how to use these guys. Never caught a fish on one. These are the first ones I've ever owned, so it's something that I'm very excited to dip my toes into and start learning how to fish and taking you guys along with me. And then the last one, the King Daddy here, we got a 9-inch 6-inch draw. Other places in the country, this probably doesn't seem too ridiculous on a size, but up here in Pennsylvania, that's a big bait. That's something we'd fish for pike or muskie, and I'm sure we're gonna get a couple of pike and muskie fishing this thing around up here, just trying to catch bass with it. But very interested to throw this 9-inch one as well, because while it looks very large, it's very slender and it has a good action when I was fishing it in Florida. So I don't see why a 2-pound or 3-pound bass might not try and commit and bite one of these baits. So we'll be ordering some more, even in the 9-inch size, and giving them a shot this year. So I hope you guys enjoyed this year's iteration of my best baits, ones that I'm looking forward to fishing. Check this video out right here. If you want to see that finesse swim bait video we were talking about, that's one you gotta have. It's like my favorite thing ever. So check that one out. If you want to get any of these baits, use my code Quince on 6th Sense website. You'll save 10% off your entire order. You'll be helping out the channel a ton to continue making videos like this. Hit that subscribe button down below, and thanks for watching.